Happy New Year's Eve!
You're watching SKST Radio.
Well, welcome to another episode of SKST Radio, Authors Network. We're at our 200th episode, and we got Tamar here helping us celebrate. Happy New Year's Eve. Woo, Tamar, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Well, thank you for being here. Okay, so you have a brand new book. Tell people about the book.
Well, it's called Two Sisters of Fayetteville. It's a YA novel, and I'm very excited to have it out. This was just published in October, so I'm very glad to be on the show to discuss it.
Yay!
It's about the two oldest sisters of a Quiverful family, a conservative Christian family. And so the main character is Joanna Upshaw, and she's 17 years old, and her sister is Hannah, who's 16 years old. And it's about the two of them being raised in this very conservative atmosphere and coming to realize that it may not be the best fit for them. And the conflict of the novel is how they decide to handle that.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what inspired you to write this book?
Well, when the Duggars reality show first came on, we're talking about 19 Kids and Counting. I found that show interesting, and I found a lot of the news articles that covered it to be very interesting as well. So I read a lot about it online, read a lot of the articles, and a lot of the comments online commented on which sister might be the first to leave the family and the first to rebel. And that's what inspired this novel, that conflict.
Oh, wow. So, do you have any other books or any other books coming up?
I've had a number of books published recently. Actually, this is my third book that was published this year. In January, I published Tales of the Romanov Empire, which is a historical novel and short stories about the whole of the Romanov Empire from 1613 to 1918. So this is not just about Nicholas and Alexander. This is like about all the Tsars and all the Romanovs. And several of those chapters were actually inspired by my own family history because my ancestors were from Eastern Europe. And so several of those chapters are about one of my great-grandfathers in particular and his emigration from Lithuania into New York City, which is where I'm from originally.
Oh, wow.
So that was just amazing for me to write.
Oh, wow. So the Romanov, that is, I guess for whatever reason, I'm like drawn to Anastasia and the family, Romanov family, and wondering, was it a myth or was it real? Does your book cover anything like that to get those questions answered?
A little bit, but I think you're in good company. I think that kind of myth aspect to it is what draws a lot of people into the history of the Romanovs. And so my book does go into the end of the dynasty a little bit, its causes, and each chapter is a separate short story that kind of stands on its own. But then over the course of the book, you really see the arc of the empire from the beginning and through its end to Nicholas and Alexandra and Anastasia and her siblings.
Oh, wow. That is so cool. So I got to get that book too. Oh, we need to bring you back to talk about that book. Okay.
Absolutely.
So what has been your feedback so far on the new book here?
For Two Sisters of Fayetteville, I've gotten some really good reviews on it, and I'm happy to see that. Like I said, it's been an interesting book for me to write, and I was really happy to delve into that kind of dynamic with a large family. So Joanna and Hannah are two of the older sisters of what it turns out to be 12 siblings, and that's a large family. Mm-hmm. And it's tough to do, and it's tough on the parents. And so really this was about exploring relationships between the siblings and their parents, and how that falls out. And so this book has been like very interesting for me to write. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm glad to see it be published, and I'm glad to see it be out there.
Nice. So any similarities to any real life that went into the book?
Not to my own family. It's almost the opposite of my own family in a lot of ways because we're not Christian. We came from a family of Eastern European Jews that fled the Romanov Empire, basically. And so for me, part of the trick in writing this book was to do my research, was to read a lot of nonfiction about the Christian patriarchy movement, read books about the Duggars. They've written a few books themselves about themselves. And so that those books were my first go-to to see how they portray themselves, see what they say about their lifestyle, read books about other sort of similar Christian entities with large families like the Mormons and the Amish. And so that was really fascinating for me because it is so outside my own experience.
Wow, wow. So what's next for you? What's the next chapter for you?
Well, I do have another book that I'm hoping will be out in the spring. It's the second book of a trilogy. The first book was published about 2 years ago now. And that first book was called the Fledgling's Inferno, and is the first book in the Vanguard Warriors trilogy. And the second book, which will be out in the spring, is called The Silent Evil. This is like sci-fi and also YA, and it's about cadets at military academies who have genetic superpowers.
Nice.
Yeah. So also completely different from Two Sisters of Fayetteville and 84 Romanov books.
So is it hard to be so versatile in your writing?
As a writer, I can only respond to the ideas that come to me, and it certainly keeps it interesting. I've never been bored, and that's something that's wonderful, and it keeps me going. But yeah, I mean, I think maybe one of the downsides is that sometimes I feel like it's hard to find an audience when I am so across different genres in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think it's good to be that way. Everybody can get a taste of your writing,
Absolutely.
So I'm a firm believer of that. I mean, I've written a children's book, an etiquette book. I find it. I want to reach everyone, I guess. So I feel that in you as well.
Yes, I've been really enjoying writing across so many different genres and having so many different topics. I mean, and just being able to delve into all that stuff and read about it and learn about so many different people, different people's stories. That's all what's interesting to me is other people's stories and telling them and doing as well as I can at that.
So give us a little background about you. You kind of gave us a taste of it. So how was it growing up? Were you inspired to be a writer as a kid, or how did you get the writing bug?
Well, I'd always read a lot as a kid, and my parents were very into that, giving us books and having us read them on our own. And then definitely by the time I was in high school, I was like writing my own stories just for fun. And I started to take it more seriously in college when I was writing for my college's newspaper, and then freelance professionally for a number of magazines and newspapers afterwards. And then a few years ago, when I decided to sort of take it more seriously and trying to get book length stuff out in the world, I started taking classes at the Writer Center in Bethesda, Maryland, in the DC area. And that really is inspiring because they have so many good workshops and so many knowledgeable instructors that it was really a wonderful atmosphere. And it really helped me push my work forward.
Wow. So that kind of pushes me to the next question. What words of wisdom could you give to someone who's inspiring to be a writer just like you?
Get yourself out there, take classes, definitely connect with the writers community, whether it's at something like the Writers Center or any myriad of other writers organizations that are out there. I mean, stuff like SCBWI is something else that I'm a member of for people that write children's books through YA. I have a wonderful beta reading group through them, and that's been really wonderful and absolutely helpful, especially for something like Two Sisters of Fayetteville, which is YA. My group read chapters of that, and their feedback was invaluable. Finding a good, beta reading group and critique group, the feedback is invaluable. And getting feedback on your writing definitely makes you a better writer, as well as reading other people's materials and giving feedback on that. It's all so helpful in growing your own writing.
Yeah, there's actually links and people out there that's trying to get people to test the writings, so that's a great idea. I kind of agree with you on that one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, being part of a community makes it so much better. I mean, and at the end of the day, writing is a very solitary profession. And that can get maddening in some levels. And so having that community of people to submit chapters to or scenes to, or say like, hey, is this working? Is that not working? Am I crazy? What's going on here? Getting the feedback is just wonderful.
One more question I want to ask you, since this is our final show of the year. Do your books tend to write themselves?
In a lot of respects, yes. I mean, I have a lot of novels that are based on either news or history, And so I almost come at it with a story in mind in a lot of respects. And so I'm definitely a plotter in that sense.
Okay.
And I definitely sit down and I have a whole bunch of scenes in mind, and I come up with the general arc that I want to see for my characters. I come up with the first scene, definitely, so I know what the reader's going to see right off the bat.
Mhm.
And I definitely like to have an ending in mind so that I know what my characters are working towards. And so definitely, like, when I'm really into it and I've done enough research and I'm really happy with the characters, they definitely write themselves. And
Yeah.
the words just flow out.
Yeah, exactly. My book here, it started off as me writing the book thinking, oh, I'm never going to get it published, so I turned it into a stage play. And then after the stage play, it ended up being like a sequel and something
Nice.
after that. And so now I got to get it all written down because it took off, and the characters in the play really spinned off. Really could be a good sitcom, to be honest.
Yeah,
But
that sounds wonderful. I mean, but it's really the best way to do it when your characters are speaking to you like that, and you can just sit down and say, okay, what's this person going to do next? I mean, that's what keeps it exciting for both me as a writer and I think for the reader as well.
Yeah, so that's very exciting. So tell people how they can get the book.
It's available on Amazon. Definitely, you can search by the title or search by my name, and everything should come up.
Wonderful. Well, Tamar, I appreciate you being on the show.
Oh,
I
thank
am
you.
so inspired to get out there and do more. I mean, you said you had a trilogy. I'm working on one. I have what is it called? Writepad or Witpad, something like that.
Yeah.
I have 2 of the 3 there, and
Awesome.
trying to get feedback from people to see what they thought, their thoughts are on the stories. And I want to do that for March of 2023.
Yeah, I'm shooting for the spring also for the second book of that trilogy. So hopefully we'll be in line with each other.
That's right. We can bring you back and let's talk about it and see what we did right and what we did wrong.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful. When you see me on social media, please say hi. I want you to stay part of the network connection. As you get new books, reach out. We're happy to get you out there as much as we can. That's what we're here for, to help support one another.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're wonderful. Thank you for being here. Okay, guys, that wraps up another show. Our show, 200th episode of the year. Thank you, Tamar.
Thank you. Thank you.
Until next year.
Yeah, same to you. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye. Happy New Year.